friends, welcome back. For today's video, we're gonna do some more sculpting. Excuse the frog voice. I'm currently recovering from what I think was a sinus infection. I don't know. I had kind of a rough week this week, TBH. I had a crash out moment and I'm kind of just trying to recover from all that was this last week. If the vibes are off, maybe that's why. Anyway, let's get into the plans that I have for this set. Alright, so for this set, I thought I could do kind of like a mashup. Now, this is gonna be more niche, I want to say. This might actually not necessarily resonate with the majority of folks. I'm not entirely sure how many of y'all are Latinos, Latinas, but it's a mashup. So hopefully it'll still be a cute video for you to watch. There's a plane flying right above me right now. I have my windows open again. Let's hope everyone behaves today. All right, the plan is as follows. When I was a kid, of course, we're gonna take it back. We're gonna reminisce. I and a couple other generations, I wanna say millennials, Gen X, and maybe even whatever generation comes before Gen X, we are familiar with the man, the myth himself, Chespirito. Chespirito was basically this actor who had a show in which he played a million characters, and one of those characters was El Chavo del Ocho. This man used to basically cosplay as a child. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it was pretty wholesome. If you know, you know. So he and his cast played a group of kids basically in a neighborhood. The neighborhood was La Vecindad, and this kid who he played was El Chavo. El Chavo was a poor kid who used to live in a barrel, and he, to my understanding, didn't really have any parents, but it was like a comedy show, you know, and these like kids would kind of get into trouble, just like have, what would I call it, like a moral to a story every time. So yeah, it was a wholesome family show, and I just remember having very good memories watching it. I wanted to do a mashup, right? So the mashup that I want to do is a mashup between, how many times can I say mashup in this intro? The mashup is El Chavo meets Mart Crybabies, because why not? Why not? Right? Hopefully it's not going to be too difficult to imagine what El Chavo and a couple of the characters from the show would look like if they were Mart Crybabies. So I want to do like those big cheeks and like the big tears coming down from the cheeks. So yeah, let this be kind of like my annual Hispanic Heritage Month celebration video. Won't you sit back, relax? Here's a sketch. Anyway, let's get into the nails. All right, let's hope the audio works this time. So we're getting started with the press-on nails already prepped. I basically just rounded out the cuticles on the nails and applied primer over top so that I could start applying the base colors. So the first nail I'm doing is the Chavo nail. I wanted to bring the barrel into the set because it's so iconic. As I mentioned, this was Chavo's home. I layered a couple of coats of this gel because this is more of a syrupy kind of gel, so I really needed to build it up. It's a nice warm brown. And yeah, so you'll see me add the base colors to the rest of the set. I wanted to keep a lot of these simple, so there won't be too much going on in terms of like the base colors, except for a couple. So the barrel being one of them, and then adding just some stripes, you know, so on and so forth. You'll see. So next I added some lines in brown to start making like the wooden pieces to the barrel. I also mixed a little black, brown, and a little bit of top coat. And this was just so that the color wouldn't show up as opaquely. But yeah, that's what I used to create the knots and like the wooden grain. This nail in particular was super fun, and I really loved how the barrel came out. I'm a big fan. Like, I love drawing anything wooden, you know, or like painting anything wooden. I just love the texture you have to create with different colors and like shading and all of that. The next nail was the Chilindrina nail. This is the character, and this was actually one of the characters on the TV series that actually had a spinoff, and it turned into like an icon. Girl, she like was on everything. I'm talking TV series, toys, merch, record deal. This woman was making such a name for herself just with this character alone. The actress's name is María Antonieta de las Nieves, and I'm pretty sure that this character in particular is like the main character that she was known for in her entire career. So it was really interesting to kind of see how Chespirito was such a good storyteller and created such interesting characters that they were able to build on that. And yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Also, side note, Chespirito actually means little Shakespeare, which I did not know that. Anyway, I added white on top of the green, as you just saw, because I wanted the red to really pop. And this nail is based off of Chilindrina's costume. She wears a little green dress with a red sweater that is kind of like twisted at the back. And I also wanted to include the yellow bow on the dress, but it ended up looking not like a bow at all because I wanted to make it seem as though half of the bow was like under the sweater. I don't know, not a very good artistic choice there, but you know, that's what I did. And then I also outlined some things in black because I just wanted to bring like a cartoony kind of element to the set. And I like the idea in theory. I just kind of wish I would have used like a thinner brush, like liner brush, to do the lines just a little more narrow than they actually were. But overall, it wasn't bad. Like I do still like that about it. The next nail is the Chavo striped t-shirt nail. I thought this was cute and I loved the simplicity of it. I've kind of learned over time that sometimes less is more. And the best way to get myself to finish a set without losing my ever-loving mind is to include some elements that are easier or like simpler to create. So they're kind of like breathers for me and as well for the design overall, because I just feel like, I don't know, I didn't want the background of the nails to take away too much from the actual like sculpting that we're gonna do later on the characters. So yeah. The next nail will be the Kiko nail. So I wanted to mimic the pattern on Kiko's hat. This is Kiko, by the way. I did a sort of like pinwheel design that doesn't look very perfect, but it's on purpose. I did this on a white nail because the gels that I'm using aren't particularly opaque and are also not very great at self-leveling. I have to admit, my V-Beauty Pure gels, they're good in terms of like whenever you're doing like an overall color, but when you're doing these types of sets where you're adding color to 3D gel and things like that, and you want to like really build up some of those gels and like the opacity of each color, they're not great at that. So overall, I mean, I like being mindful of how I spend money. I just don't want to buy stuff just to buy stuff, you know, but I'm seeing now that there are certain things that I feel like could be time savers and also could really improve the quality of my work. So I am considering buying like an actual palette with really rich opaque kind of colors. I've considered the MPA palette. I know a lot of you are also nail artists. Let me know what you guys use and what you would suggest so that I'm not spending so much time building up these colors because it kind of kills it for me a little bit. But anyway, so now we're gonna get started on the sculpting. I do add a little bit of primer. In this case, I'm using a kind of like stiffer builder gel to sculpt, but even when I'm using my carving clay, even those, they do require a little bit of primer just to make the surface of the nail a little bit stickier and so that your clay doesn't move around. I wanted to use this builder gel that I have in particular. This is what I used on my cat claws a few months ago. I still have this giant tub of it and I just want to make use of it, so that's why I used it. I'm also running super low on my carving clays, so you know, I just wanted to use what I have and kind of improvise a little bit. It wasn't bad. The only thing that I don't love about using something like this is the fact that I do have to paint so much. I just kind of wish that I already had the colors that I needed to sculpt and to call it a day, you know, but because I didn't, I did have to add, you know, the white to make sure that all of the gels that I would be using would look nice and vibrant, more even looking overall. But yeah, I feel like that was one of the things that kind of took the longest, was adding color to the builder gel that I was using. But it wasn't like, it's not a deal breaker. You can make it work. I obviously made it work. But yeah, I basically wanted to break the characters down into different parts. So as you saw, I started out with just the face. Then I painted it. I added the hat. Now we have a cute little checkered hat. Added the eyes. I do have to say though that the eyes, man, like I wish I would have gone bigger with the eyes. I don't know what I was thinking. And the thing is that I did have reference photos of these Crybaby little toys. I don't know. I didn't go big enough and I should have. Another critique that I have is that I didn't do a great job at like blending the cheekies onto the face. I kind of wish I would have taken a little more time before curing to make sure that everything was nice and like flush and like everything looked nice and blended, but such is life. They're super cute still. And so I added the cheeks. I added a little bit of blush. For Chavo, I did more of like an orangey blush, which I thought was cute. And next up, I'm going to be using this beautiful 3D gel. This is also from Honey Girl. These I got from Temu, as I've said in my last video. They're stunning. I thought they were so cute, especially for the tears. Then I made sure that everything was matte first, just because I wanted to see what the features would look like if things were all matte. I decided to add a little bit of gloss just on the faces up to this point, because toward the end they're gonna look different in terms of like the finish, but yeah. But next up, we're gonna do a torta. This was so freaking fun to do. You have no idea how much I enjoyed making this torta. So torta is a sandwich in the TV series. El Chavo will do absolutely anything for a torta de jamon, which I empathize with that, you know, like I'm very food motivated. You got snacks? Let's do some snacks. So anyway, I've seen this technique in the past where people will use a clear 3D gel and add pigment to the 3D gel, and that kind of helps you do a little less fussing with the colors. So that's what I did. I have to say though that maybe it's the pigments that I have, or maybe it was like the fact that this gel in particular was a lot more like stiff, but I didn't love how the pigment looked within the gel, or maybe I just needed to like blend it in a little bit better. I don't know. I do end up going over it with more color gel over top just to really accentuate the colors. But I mean, I guess I would recommend doing this, especially if you want to add depth. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, so I made a little piece of bread. I made the bottom part of the bread, and then I did a little piece of lettuce, and then I'm gonna do some tomato slices, which I wanted to practice doing like a realistic-ish kind of tomato. So I just practiced it here. And I know I'm well aware that I'm going to cover it up with the other piece of bread, you know, but like, I just wanted to try it. I just wanted to see what it would look like. And I really like it. I do have to say though, like I could have done a little bit better on the seeds of the tomatoes, but like, it's fine. We're going to live. I wanted to do an extra layer of gel so that you could see like the actual jamon part. I didn't, and I was just like, you know what, let me just keep going because this set was already taking forever and a day to complete. Yeah, I basically just, as I said, worked on the tomatoes and then popped the other slice of bread over top. And then I just did indentations because this is what an actual torta looks like. So I wanted to kind of mimic that a little bit. And I thought it was super cute. I love my torta. I love it so much. I also felt like I wanted to do maybe like a bite, like someone had taken a bite out of the torta, but again, I was running out of time. The next nail is the Chilindrina. From what you can see, I'm using a ton of this builder gel, and slowly but surely I do remove some. I start off a little too generously. But yeah, it's pretty much like the same process that I did for Chavo. Broke down the character to just the face, and then I added the hair over top. It just helps keep everything nice and neat. I also do a lot of the sculpting with my little gloves, like with my fingers, because this gel that I'm using is a lot stiffer. So I do dip my gloved fingertips into rubbing alcohol, and this kind of helps the gel from sticking to my gloves. The glasses, surprisingly, they were kind of hard to imagine, especially with the cheeks. I had to cut a bunch of footage just from the glasses alone. I didn't know how to bring it all together, but I basically just stuck with the top rims of both of the lenses, and this is what she looks like. She's so cute. I love her. At first, I thought that the little piggy tails were a little too high up, but I didn't want to bring them down because I have to keep in mind that my fingers are kind of short, so I don't have very much room. So if I were to bring down the piggy tails, it would have made that nail in particular really like wide, and it would need a lot of room on my hand. So I just I did them up here just to keep them from bumping into the other nails on either side. The next nail is my Kiko nail. The funny thing about this character is that he seems like an actual human crybaby. Kiko himself had these big ass cheeks. He would basically act and deliver his lines with cheeks full of air, like an actual crybaby. But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny that I was adding these big old cheeks on Kiko, and like that is the character, you know, that is him already. For this last nail, as I said, I wanted to keep a couple of designs a little more on the simpler side. So for this one in particular, I just did a lollipop. So what I did to get kind of that multicolored effect was to make little noodles out of my Crisania Neri jelly collection, just a couple of those colors. There's like the aqua color, yellow, like a pink, might have done orange, I believe. Anyway, I basically just rolled up some little noodles and then stuck them together and twisted. Sorry, I don't have the footage for that either. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I did. That's what I used. As I said, it was super simple. I added white to the back of the lollipop to make sure that those colors would be nice and vibrant and yeah, true to color. Yeah, that's it. This is what the set looks like. I think it's super cute. I love it so much. I had so much fun making it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. That's gonna be it from me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really, really, truly appreciate it. I love doing this. I love doing these types of sets. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget to give this video a like. It really, really, truly helps me out so much. And I really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. I'd love to have you. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.